Hey there, welcome to the Mental Perk podcast. I'm Carla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandy Mock, entrepreneur, author, and community leader. And we're here to talk about
real people, real issues, and real talk. Welcome back to the Mental Perk. Today we are so excited to have Elizabeth de Moraes as she is here. She has 2 master's degree, 1 master's of arts, 1 master's of fine arts. She is amazing. She describes herself as a formerly shy introvert turned acclaimed international performer, speaker. She just did an amazing TED Talk here in Frisco, a master communication coach, a trained transformational coach with a career that spans multiple decades. We are so excited to have Elizabeth. She has such an interesting story on her road to becoming a professional dancer all the way up to being this inspirational leader. So we're so excited to have you here, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited. We go way back, Carla.
We do. So Elizabeth, so all those Carrolltonites out there, Elizabeth and I were both on the drill team in high school. She was the captain, and I was on her team.
In my line.
Yes, we did lots of high kicks together.
Yes, we did. And jump splits.
Well, the neat thing about Elizabeth is she was such an elegant performer back in high school, and I can't imagine. I've seen some of the stuff that you did after high school, and just such beautiful stuff. Tell us a little bit about your dance career.
All right. Well, after high school, I went up to Michigan to do my undergrad and got a degree in dance. And then fast forward through that, I then moved over to Europe to become a professional dancer there, choreographer and teacher. And so I was able to really explore the art and the profession and had an amazing experience there. And then once there, I realized I need more education to give back more to my students and all, and so did my first master's in England.
Wow.
What an experience.
And all things dance anthropology and dance analysis of all things.
Wow.
I'm like, I've been in Texas my whole life.
I know. I'm just a commoner.
But that's what makes Elizabeth so special. And I love watching you. And, we weren't connected for a long time, but we reconnected a couple years ago just because we were friends on Facebook. And I was just noticing all the things you were doing. And it was just so impressive and elegant and so fun to watch. And so we then hooked up and had a glass of wine together. It was really nice. And kind of caught up on doing what we were doing. And so, yes, we definitely need to do that again.
All 3 of us.
So,
Yes.
anyway, I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about... I think we're going to go back to early days and go into, you had told me about kind of growing up and you were in a military family, right? Not military.
My dad, we did travel a lot internationally, but my dad is a geochemist.
Okay.
So we were
that's
in
what
oil, or he was in oil.
It was in
Wow.
oil. And so
Not
Not in oil,
not
but
oil tycoons, but researcher.
yes. And your parents are lovely people, by the way. They are beautiful people.
But a lot of people do assume that it's military.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit about growing up there, because I know that, and we are a mental health podcast, and you have a lot of mental health history in your life. And let's touch on that a little bit.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to go way back before going over to travel and all. When I was 3 weeks old, my parents, and I have my tissue because I know this will get emotional for me, but when I was 3 weeks old, the doctors told my mom that she needs to go into the hospital for depression. She was clinically depressed, and so for the first 10 years of my life, she was in hospitals. And so you can imagine, as you grow up and you're thinking, wait, she went into the hospital right after I was born. Is it my fault? So I took on a lot of that. And when she was out, it was hard. She was still kind of just numb. And I do remember, I have memories of being on the bed holding my mom and rocking her, saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So, the roles were reversed. I'm so glad she didn't follow through on this, but and it sounds kind of strange to say it this way, but she loved me so much and life was so hard for her that she didn't want me to experience such pain, so that she almost took us both out. And then she didn't.
Oh, wow.
So I'm so glad she didn't. And
we are so glad she didn't.
Me too. Me too. But what is amazing is that she kept asking, please, she kept praying to God, help me, please help me, please help me. And then finally and she told me when we were in Germany and she was literally in an insane asylum where they were going to do a lobotomy on her and all. And my dad said, absolutely not. He moved her to another facility. And fast forward, I went to go visit her when she was starting to heal. And my dad says that visit was one of the most amazing visits because he finally saw the light in her eyes again. And it was when she started praying, God, please help me to help myself. Instead of just, please help me, I don't know what to do. It's like, please help me to help myself. What do I need to do to start healing? And that's when she really started healing.
Wow. So at the beginning, you thought that you were the cause of it.
Yes.
And then you find out, no, I'm what saved her.
Oh. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And their relationship now, I mean, they've been married now since 65. So what is that? Almost 60 years now.
Wow.
They are the most beautiful couple. And
they're so strong.
You're their only daughter.
Only daughter. Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, they poured love into Elizabeth. They were at everything she ever did. They were just the most amazing parents and just have always been supportive of you.
So true.
And just so sweet and powerful that your mom, it was a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice. But that choice has been life-changing.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean...
Yeah.
But that's
Definitely.
so important
What
for
a
our
sweet
listeners to
reminder.
hear
Yes,
who are
it's not
in
too
a
late.
deep, dark depression to know you can get through
You
this.
absolutely
Yeah.
can.
You can.
Absolutely.
And if you are a child of someone experiencing it, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not
Your fault.
So important to
Absolutely.
hear.
Because she had been suffering from this for years.
Mm-hmm.
And she finally found a path that worked for her in her treatment.
Right.
And that's something that she, and did y'all come back to the U.S. and that's something she still battled or?
Yes. Yeah, a bit. I mean, in and out,
Yeah.
but not to the extent
That it was then.
She never had to go back into the hospital.
Well, and I think the
again.
power, too, behind the story as well is just knowing that Mom had her support. She had her husband. She had
Yes.
her daughter.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, a lot
Support
of people
system
give
is
up because
huge.
they don't have that support, but just knowing she had the support is a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was just a hard time in your life. In your TED Talk, and I loved it so much, you talked about the day you decided to be a dancer.
Yes.
And you held on to that. You have some kind of motivation and self-drive that you're like, at 4 years old, I'm going to be this dancer. And you made it happen.
Yes.
You're on the world stage.
Yes. Yeah.
Which watch that because it's a very good
is.
video. But your opening to that's talking about how you were sitting down, stretched with your nightgown, which,
Over
it's
my
so
knees.
funny because I used to do the same thing. I'd stretch that nightgown out,
Right in front of the TV.
Even
Right.
though it didn't keep you warm, but it kept you warm, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It
You're
was
like,
a
you tuck your
coverall,
toes.
like a little tent, like a little body tent, right?
Exactly.
And then the grape nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Girl, I used to, I'm the same thing.
Yeah.
Lots
it
of
was the
sugar,
best.
little milk.
Just
It's
enough
like-
sugar.
just enough sugar.
You could have just
Yeah.
ate the sugar smacks at that point, or
It's
the
not
corn
the same.
pops.
It's not the same, is it?
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, not the same.
Okay, well, I like the corn pops.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
All right, so then you became this dancer.
Yes.
And fulfilled your dream of doing that. And like I said, I got to see it in high school and how wonderful that was. Tell us a little bit about your travels and some of your experiences.
Well, what got me over there was I had just graduated from college, and one of my professors said that she couldn't do a job that she normally did every summer in Switzerland. And would I like to potentially take her slot that summer? And I was like, what is it? And she said, well, it's teaching at a boarding school in Switzerland in a castle.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Sign me up.
Yes.
Castle all
I
the
don't
way.
care what else. Just get me in the castle.
I want to be a castle.
Wow.
But this is what, it's a story of tenacity and saying, yes, I'll do that. But
Yeah.
also the tenacity of saying, wait, I'm going to be teaching musical theater. I've never done musical theater, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I was
Did
like,
you have
okay.
to sing too?
No, I didn't
Have to
do it.
sing.
I had to choreograph it. I mean, it's setting a show. So
Yeah.
it
Right.
wasn't like I had to have had the experience of being a singer and dancer. I just need to know that they need to sing these songs. I'm going to choreograph and I'm going to produce the show and teach them. And so I got to teach these kids that, princes from Saudi Arabia.
And
then, it was amazing. And then first time skiing and first time to actually have like real authentic fondue. We had to walk up to the restaurant. The chef got the salad from the garden, and it was like my first time to really learn.
It's not Velveeta queso.
No.
So I want to know how old were you when you were doing this?
So I'd just gotten out of college, so 22.
So let me ask you a question. I'm curious. Anxiety. What was it like going into another country?
Well, I was used to it.
Okay.
I had lived there as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from age 8 to 12, almost 13, I then, before high school, we lived in Germany.
Okay.
And so I'm very used to different cultures and like traveling by myself. I mean, back then even it was, I loved it. I lived for it. And so, because also before me moving there as an adult, my parents, while I was in college, lived in Norway.
Okay.
Then it was Mobil. Now it's ExxonMobil. And so Mobil, fortunately, flew me over twice a year. So I had a lot of experience traveling by myself. So I really didn't have the anxiety. It was, so where can I learn how to do this and that?
That's pretty amazing.
And there was one time when I was living in Germany as an adult, we didn't really talk about like my time. Well, you did. You asked me what are some experiences and memories of my travels. I actually, when I went back as an adult, as a dancer, I ran into and met an old friend who I had gone to elementary school with in Germany.
Wow.
And he actually, our families were good friends. We lived in the same apartment complex and all, and he and I met up and fell in love, I'm going to say, with the fairy tale of, my childhood friend. And also I moved to Germany for 2 years of that.
Okay.
And really just, and I can't remember why. I have all these memories coming through. Why was I telling you about Germany?
It's so interesting, so we're okay with it.
Okay.
You just keep going.
What was your question before that?
Traveling, the anxiety of
the
traveling.
anxiety.
Yes.
Okay, so now I remember. Okay. So I had a Eurail pass. Y'all know what a Eurail pass is?
It gets you on all the trains?
Yes, for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And I only had another week or so left of this ticket. So I thought, well, I'm just going to run to Paris for 3 days. So
of course, I'm just going to go to Paris.
I know that sounds bad, but it's like us saying I'm going to run down to Austin.
Yeah,
I'm going to run down to Austin for a little bit. But I had
big
no
difference.
place.
Big difference.
I know, but it's
not
like
the
that.
same thing.
But distance-wise, it's like us jumping on a train and going to Austin. Okay, no big deal. And so, but I got there, didn't know where I was going to stay, what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to find, once I got there, I needed to find the tourist bureau. And we would open up everything, see what kind of hotels I could afford, and then I would go there. And then 3 days, I was off and running. So
there was no app. There was no app.
Oh no! This was early 90s. This is early 90s.
So she's got maps.
Yeah, she's like the hard work, having to do research.
Yeah, I will say that the travel did not give me anxiety, but I will say the profession did in terms of body image and all of that. Because back then, especially now, it's changed. You still have to, many schools and many companies will make you want to, be skinny.
Yes.
But we do have more of a, body awareness and acceptance now, more so than way back then. But back then it was, even like when we first started in Drill Team, it may have been cut out at that time, or did we weigh? Like at least our sophomore, we had to weigh. Where then they took that out. Yeah. But so back then it was really a
lot of body shaming going on.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey, because we know that dancers and eating disorders went hand in hand. I think they still do.
Oh yeah, of course they do. And, because there's still the ideal of perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experience with that. And I know you touch on this in your TED Talk, which is fascinating how you described it. But
well, and as I said in my talk, I binged. I would overeat, and I never.
Is that to deal with emotions, or what?
I think it was to fill something. It was one to fill a void, a hole, because I was still dealing with elements of, like with my mom, but also reflecting back, when we moved back from Germany, it was right at middle school age. You know how difficult that can be. Yeah. And I mean, what I had done was, I was in Germany as a little kid. They held me back a year because of the language. But then when I came back to the States, they jumped me back up to the right year. But then academically, I was about 2 years ahead because of schools are so different. And so when I got here, I already knew all what was going on, but I also didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want anybody to know about the cultural experiences I had, the world view that I had, all of that made me feel, now it makes me who I know that makes me who I am, and it makes my life richer. But at that point, I didn't want anybody to know. So at that point, I started really
I was around you for 4 years. I never knew that.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. That's weird.
And I was a world traveler, and it was like...
I never knew. I would have just thought you lived in Carrollton, Texas your whole life.
So, really? Okay. So
she did her part.
I was able to mask really well. And so I think with that type of, the anxiety and all of that around that, then really created a hole in me. So I would use food to fill that. But also, and like I said in my talk, we're going to kind of advertise the talk here.
That's great.
You really should.
I'm proud of it.
Everybody should listen to it because I related to everything she said.
And we didn't say what the title is. It's transforming your sabotage or your self-sabotage into your superpower. So if you self-sabotage, you definitely need to go listen to it.
Who hasn't self-sabotaged? Everybody's done it.
I mean, almost everything she said, and I'm not going to tell anything, but everything she said, I related to the eating.
100%.
I'm so glad.
Everything.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
Just being so hard on yourself and knowing that is not who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
But finding who you are, which I love.
Exactly. Thank you. So, but in that, I talk about how, one, we just talked about the filling the hole, but in the talk, I talk about how it was my way to self-sabotage because it was, in dance, if we're supposed to be skinny, if I'm really reaching for that next level of my dreams and my success, if I then can blame my weight on it, then I don't have to address my fear of not having enough talent to go there.
Oh, wow.
That is so powerful.
And so what it did is it gave me more proof that I don't have what it takes to thrive in an industry where skinny is the norm.
Wow. I never even, the way she just said that,
I wouldn't
never
put
even,
that together either.
but I can totally relate to it too, right?
So,
100%.
and that's why we do it so often is like we think, oh, well, it's just because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
No, it's really, if you go deeper, it's really because I don't want to address this.
Yeah.
I don't want to address that I might not be enough or good enough because I already think I'm not good enough and I'm not enough. So if I have to really address that, then it hurts too much. So let me blame something else, create that situation, and then not go for it. But still go for it.
Yeah.
And still succeed, but maybe not.
It was just a little bit harder, I guess.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
A lot harder.
Yeah. Wow.
That's pretty powerful.
It is.
So you did all of this, and how did you get out of that? Did someone realize that you were doing this? Did they get you help? Did you find help yourself?
I found help, and then also I'm going to say I met my husband.
Okay, that was coming up. I was going to ask that little question.
Yeah, that relationship started filling that hole, and I never had to try to lose weight or try to not eat the way I was. It just, the behavior started sloughing away, and then the weight just started sloughing away. So I started healing, and so developing a relationship of someone who, even though I was bringing all my baggage, he was bringing all his baggage.
It filled your void.
It filled my void.
And there's something to say about someone that loves you, that even you, although you see these flaws in yourself, they see zero flaws. And so they're almost the one that are lifting you up and guiding you and reaffirming that you're enough the way you are. I love you because of this, because you are the way you are. And it just kind of re-triggers you knowing, you are worthy. You are everything that he says you are that you may not feel.
Right, exactly. And years ago, when our girls were young, he said, I really see you standing on huge stages and we're going to be sitting in the audience.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, yeah, I really want that, but I don't see that. I see it, but I don't see it. It's not for me. I see me doing it, but it's probably not for me.
He knew it before you knew it.
Yeah. And so.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So he's my biggest cheerleader.
There was something you did with your dance not too long ago. Dancing with the Stars here in Coppell? Or
it was in Colleyville.
Colleyville. Mm-hmm. Yes, that was so exciting to watch you train for that and have fun with that.
Yeah, it was my first time to get back because I did quit dance. So when our girls, actually when our first daughter was born, a few years in after, like she was about 2 or so, I did stop dancing. I was teaching at TCU as a professor and still performing, but then it just got to be too much. And with being a newer mom and all. So it was 14 years of not dancing for real dancing like I was. And I was invited to be a competitor on the Colleyville, it was the Rotary Club.
Okay.
And they had a big fundraiser. And so I said, why not? So I got partnered with a professional ballroom dancer. I'd never done ballroom dancing.
Oh, you did it phenomenally.
Thank you. Well, and I won Best Dancer.
Look at you.
And I won Best Dancer.
I'm like a robot. I have 0 rhythm. So I may have to get some tips here on how to dance because, let me ask you a question because I'm curious. Because I don't dance. And anybody that sees me says she can't dance. No, it's true. And I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with not being able to dance, right? But not ever doing ballroom dancing. How different is it from what you've done?
It was very difficult.
Okay.
Because, especially my career was mostly was as a soloist. I would dance as a group in the company, but then my where I really thrive is as a soloist. So having to dance with someone else who's supposed to be guiding you and leading,
that's got to be hard.
No.
You're like, so I'm the leader here.
Right. But the thing is what I really learned, it was a big learning lesson, is that when and I almost did my TED Talk about this. And in my talk, I talk about how many times I rewrote the talk. Up about to a week before, I was actually going to dance with my dance partner in the talk.
Okay.
But it got to be too much and too distracting. But there's such a dynamic energy and power when you work together.
Yeah.
Where you and I in the experience in the talk, I do, like I say that this hand is the potential, this hand is the gas pedal.
Yeah.
And when they come together, there's this beautiful dance.
Yeah.
Because the potential pushes, you release into that, but then you push back, and there's just this really great communication. And that's what I learned in this, is that just because you're not leading doesn't mean you're just flopping there.
There's a lot of trust and vulnerability.
But there's a lot of resistance back into it.
Yeah.
Because if
you're still in control.
Yeah, because if he's pushing this hand, if I just release, my body will just flop. Yeah. Whereas I have to really hold and press in, and then as I feel him pressing, I release just a little bit, but I don't let go. Wow. So I'm still very much present, but I'm not giving up myself.
There's a lot of
symbolism, and I had to learn.
That.
Yes,
yeah,
and
so I had to so much symbolism in that. I could see a whole talk on that.
I could too, 100%.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we expect to see that soon, by the way. Okay.
Right. Well, just last night I was like, I think I want to do another one.
No, that would be really cool, actually.
I know people have done multiple ones. So.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great one. So, with all of those experiences, how did that lead you into a master communication coach and train transformational coach and all those wonderful things, those coaches?
Well, it's crazy to think that I do what I do now, because I got into dancing because I didn't want to have to speak. I wanted to.
Isn't that ironic?
Yes, right. So to your question about, or your point about when I was 4 years old and I decided I'm going to become a dancer, because I had seen this beautiful dancer, Hyacinth the hippopotamus on Fantasia, dance, and I decided I wanted to do that because I then could communicate and connect with people without ever having to speak a word.
And you're right. I mean, I watch dancers and I'm like, it brings something out of you. It forces you to think.
Yes.
And it's beautiful.
And you feel it.
It's emotional.
Yeah. And so it is ironic that I stepped into what I do now because I didn't want to have to speak.
And now all she does is speak.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, is like pulling it all together, having a mom who experienced what she was going through, I didn't want to rock the boat. And so I became a master observer. And because I didn't, if I was doing different things, then I wasn't really reading the room. And I had to learn how to read the room with her, and which then has become one of my superpowers, because I can walk in and go, oh, I know what's going on here. And I know either how to, I say as a speaker, you're both a thermometer and a thermostat. So you go into the room, you sense what's going on, but then you also have the ability to change the energy of the room. And so that is one thing that became my superpower. Then fast forward through dancing and then into my degrees, my big form of research was dance praxis, which is a combination of your theory and the practical side. So the practical side is your training of the body. The theoretical is the philosophy, history, anthropology, cultural, psychology, all of those elements. And when you merge the two, your performing ability just grows exponentially. And so that became my expertise. And so I was training professional dancers, training myself as well in these theories, and really helping their performance capabilities to just
I don't know about you, but I don't know much about dance, but just hearing what she just said and thinking, it's more than just moving, right?
Oh, 100%.
You just said it so perfectly to where I could visualize exactly what you're saying. It's not just the movements; it's the emotional part, and then it becomes better.
Right, exactly. Because, and this is what I would train my dancers in, and then in actors, and now what I do now is you gain so much trust in yourself, and understanding of the world, and relationships, that you're able to in the moment release all control, so that you then in the moment of performing gain all control, so that no one would ever know that you make a mistake. No one would ever know that you're like, ooh, let me add this little element, or this eye contact that I'm having with another dancer or with the audience, let me play with that a little bit more within this time frame that I know I have that I can play with.
Wow.
And so I then transferred that to the business world and for speakers. And so that all really transpired right before the pandemic, when we started getting into video and Facebook Lives and everything. We had all these business professionals who up until this point online were able to rely on images and words. Now all of a sudden they need to get on camera and they have no clue how to do that. So that's where I jumped into that.
Very interesting. Yeah, that you took something that was affecting the world so negatively and made it into your positive. That's amazing.
And then now that is really transferred. It's full circle, because I love being in front of the camera. I love helping other people in front of the camera, but my zone of genius and where I really love to be is on stage. So, and to help people be on stage as well. Yeah. So now it's for speakers and leaders who need to become those leaders that people want to listen to.
Wow.
And speak in a way that people want to listen to. Okay.
Well, tell us a little bit about your work. I mean, tell us some of the people you've worked with.
Well, I can say the types. People, for example, one of my favorite transformational stories, I have it as pinned at the top of my Instagram. Her name is Marla. She's a nurse, a pediatric nurse, or labor and delivery nurse.
Okay.
Not a pediatric nurse, a labor and delivery nurse. She's also an author and wants to be a speaker, or is a speaker. And so during the pandemic, she took part in one of my online video classes, and I had them get on camera and say what they don't like about themselves. Because when you do that, you release the power of those things. We have so many things that are going on in our heads. But the thing is that there are three things that people will then respond to. Either they never see those things in you. Before I got my braces, I would say, I hate my teeth. It really is distracting to me. Either people are going to see that and not care. They won't see it. Or if they do see it and it bothers them, then they can go on their way,
right?
And so she was on camera sharing that. And fast forward to maybe a year and a half ago, she was on stage in front of 1,500 people, looking like a boss. Just with so much charisma. So she was able to really play with her body language and her timing, her pausing, and she captivated that whole room. And I was able to help her with that.
That is awesome.
So that's what I do.
Great story.
So that's the type of people.
You're hired.
Thanks. All right.
We need that.
I'm telling you, we do. I'm going, okay, when do we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the types of people, like, you can go from being, a nurse author to a CEO.
Yeah.
I work with leaders in companies that really need to expand their capabilities internally and externally in terms of how they communicate. So again, they become those leaders that who can speak in a way that people really want to listen to.
Yeah, because a lot of people have good stories. They just don't know how to articulate it.
Absolutely.
And my big thing is the stage presence.
Right.
How do they, it's
how are you going to connect with the audience?
Exactly. So I took how do they share it? It's not just what they say, but it's how they say it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sure you deal with a lot of people who are struggling with anxiety and performance anxiety.
Yes.
And stage fright. Those are mental health issues, right? And
yeah.
self-sabotage. Yeah. So in a way, you're helping people mentally as well.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I help them address what's keeping them small when they know they have a big vision for themselves and their lives. God's has placed a big vision in their hearts, but they're afraid of stepping out into doing it. And so I help them address that and really overcome those fears and help them develop the confidence in the process. We don't sit here going, okay, I'm going to go do that when I have confidence. The only way you're going to get that confidence is by going into doing it. And then you realize, oh, I can do it. Let's do it again.
And
again. Yeah, exactly. So I'm there. So for example, Marla, who I mentioned, I was there every step of the way to, one, help her with her talk and for how to deliver it. We practiced it a lot, but I was also there at the event to help her with those nerves and to hold her hand and to say, you've got this. I'm going to help you. Have you seen A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga, where he comes off stage and she's in, she just arrived. He's like, we're going to go sing this song. Yeah. She's like, no. And you see all the thoughts going on through her head. Like, I can't do this. I've got anxiety. And he said, no, you're coming out here. I'm going to go sing it anyway. So you better go or come. And she finally was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. So I see myself as him and many times and helping you just pull yourself out of yourself and overcome, but also be that rock when you do have that anxiety and that fear. Say, it's okay. Come on, you're going to do this.
Mm-hmm. So transformational
I can teach you these.
Makes sense because you're taking them from one place to another.
Exactly.
It's like the swan, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ugly duckling to the swan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm also a trained transformational coach. We didn't really talk about that, but so that's like the underlying element of what I do. I don't just teach the behaviors of stage presence and speaking well and eloquently. It's really, I'm going to help you transform into the person that you're supposed to be.
I think I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm listening to her. She's a beautiful woman, and you'll get to see her. But thinking of where you came from to where you are now, and just going, that one thing. You're a walking testimony to everybody that's ever doubted things, just like you did. And now you're making it happen, which is inspiring to all the listeners out there. Going, okay, if she did it, you absolutely have no excuse.
Absolutely, you
right?
don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
And I will say, I have bigger visions, and I'm still scared. So it's not like you don't make it and then say, okay, it's all good.
Yeah.
No, my next version of myself and the vision is
it's just a different level of fear, I guess, because it's that next step, that next phase.
You stay in your comfort zone, you then have your courage zone.
Yeah.
And that's where your confidence is developed. So your courage zone if you keep putting yourself in your courage zone, your comfort zone keeps expanding. So things that used to terrify me out of my skin, I'm like, oh, no big deal. Come on, let's go. Mm-hmm. But then that next level, now I still am stepping into that next. Because I don't want to be someone who just doesn't fulfill my full potential.
You're acclimated. You don't want to be acclimated. You want to exceed.
And I think about this, and we all do it, these cognitive distortions of labeling. Like, I'm shy, I'm an introvert,
exactly.
I'm this or that. And I think we start to live to the label.
Completely.
And that's what slows us down, rather than removing those labels, removing those distortions, and focusing on what we really can be.
Right. No, and I love that you bring up labels, because I took that on. It was spoken over me when I was a little kid of like, oh, she's so shy. I had teachers who would say, she's doing so well in school, and we just wish she would speak up. And so I saw myself, I was shy in general, but then I saw myself as, okay, I'm shy, I'm an introvert. Oh, no. that's not what I am. So,
yes.
but I had to learn that's.
It was a learned behavior. You learned it because they kept telling you.
But
right.
people tell
but I
us
also
that.
acted that way too because of other things.
But it didn't help with them telling you that either.
No, and it's not anything wrong with that.
No, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
It goes back to instead of I'm an anxious person, I am a person who has anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to separate the two.
Yeah,
so true.
Yeah, because otherwise you just become what it is. And so I think it's so important to hear that and understand that these are things, no matter what the challenge, I can overcome them.
Yes.
And like I tell people in my office, these things are treatable. They do not have to define your life.
Exactly. And what I've loved, not loved, but like have enjoyed learning is that when I do get in an anxious state or depressed, because I still experience that, those elements, I try to separate myself from the label, as you mentioned, and witness what's going on, witness myself experiencing it. So I can kind of detach and then look at it with more... What would be the perspective? Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen me doing this. I've started cold plunging.
Yes, I have watched that. I'm not there with you, Elizabeth. Okay. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not there. Good. Go, Elizabeth.
But what's been
ice water.
No, I've done.
I know she's looking
at the Cairo.
This is
I know you're in the ice water.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But what's been interesting is that every time I do it, I go deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of the awareness of what's happening. And so I've gotten to a place where I can instantly get myself into a meditative state. And even though it's so uncomfortable, I am now able to say, oh, you're experiencing discomfort. Interesting. What is that like? Instead of holding it and resisting it, I'm just like, oh, what's that like? Okay, well, you're going to make it through this. You're good. Okay.
So how long do you plunge?
I go now up to about 7.5 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like someone's got that drive me out on blue.
I would say my brain is frozen. I can't even think to get out of the tank.
The really interesting thing was she did a video
really
and she had a bad day or something. I don't remember.
I was so mad.
You had such a bad day.
Mad and angry. Mad and hurt, like deeply hurt and so mad. Yeah.
And so she just took it and she was like, I'm going to plunge this out. I'm going to do it. And she.
But what's happening is because I'm doing it, I'm training my brain as well, and to be able to control and disassociate from what I'm experiencing in this moment and how I might react or respond.
Yeah.
Which is then translating into what I might do in everyday life. And so that's been really helping me.
Yeah. And it goes
that's why I say that in terms of the context.
We tell people to not react when you're in an emotional state. You need to give it some time, give it some space. And so you're creating that space so that you don't act impulsively and do something you might regret.
Right.
So it really is the lesson. It's just you're training yourself through this to slow everything down.
7 minutes, y'all.
Well, it's like hibernation over there. Just like 7 minutes.
I'm cold thinking about it right now.
I barely can wash my face with cold water.
Me too. Like,
if you go and watch that video of when I had that really tough day, up until that point, other videos I'm standing next to the water. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get in. And then I'm like, and this one I was just like, I'm just getting in.
Sometimes that's what it takes, right?
And I was like, it was fine. I was like, okay, I'm here. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's kind of that energy I need to do, step into when I need to just do something that might usually be scary.
I just know when I'm working out and doing 1 minute hits, just doing a 1 minute. Yeah. I'm thinking 7 minutes. I'm thinking 1 minute is too long for me already just working out, right?
Well,
and certain things.
Up to it.
No, I know. I will.
I didn't start that.
That's going to be a challenge.
It seems like in Elizabeth world, you cannot say I can't.
I can. I will.
We'll work up to it.
I should. I am. I can. I will.
She's going to go get a tub.
I will.
Okay. I have a link. I can send you the link.
Good.
That's good. I'm not doing it with you.
Yeah, you are. We're a team.
We're a team.
Maybe next time we can do it right here.
Yeah. Oh, we should. We absolutely should.
Ideas are going. Ideas are going.
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about, and I know you don't want to reveal all your stuff, but what are some things you look forward to?
Yeah.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
And
without revealing all your secrets, of course. You've done like 2 books already, right? 2, 3?
No,
2.
Yeah. One by myself and then multiple anthologies with other groups. One thing that I'm excited about is I'm producing a show that will be on Roku and Amazon Fire and Apple TV that I'm super excited about. We haven't launched it yet, so I'm not going to give you too many details about it.
Yes.
But what it is I'm telling stories and interviewing people and having them tell stories, but also myself telling stories of people who have held themselves back and lived like the story that I've said, where you're kind of pulling yourself, you're dimming your light, and then finally stepping into your purpose and your passion. What happens in your life when you really overcome those obstacles that you probably have created yourself, but other obstacles as well that are out of your control, but you overcome those things to make them happen and allow your dreams to really catapult you forward. Yeah. So it's a really fun show. So that's coming. And what else? I have an online course that's coming out. I have a webinar that's coming out, and so.
She's a busy woman.
So you designed a product and you ended up at the Emmys. So I really want to know about this situation. And, I'm a fangirl, so anytime I see pictures of famous people, I saw Michael Douglas on your...
Yes, and Tiffany. Yes. So you want to know the story of how that came to be?
Yeah. And is that something you're still developing?
I still have it. We just, because we rebranded and created a new website, those products just aren't on there yet. And it the direction of where I'm going in my business, it became a distraction rather than like
pushing
part of it.
Forward,
you have, in business, I believe you're an entrepreneur, right? And I know you are too, that you have a business, and if you have too many things going on, it can get too distracting. And then
nothing gets 100%.
Exactly. So it's kind of been put on the back burner right now, but it doesn't mean that it's going to not come back at another point. But we do have inventory. We still have things that we can sell. But I was at a mastermind event in 2017, 18, something like that, like right in Christmas time. And the coach said, have you ever thought about creating a product? And at that point, I was coaching people on camera. And I was like, well, I've kind of played with some ideas, but a mug, a journal, like, what am I going to create? And so she said, go into meditation or prayer and just see what might come. And so I went into prayer and I said, God, what are we going to create? Who's it for? And what's the problem we're solving? And within 2 minutes, I had this concept of what was called the Video Glam Cam Kit. Now it's called the Icon on the Go. And it is, originally it was a box, beautiful, like luxury box. Because when you get a luxury pair of shoes or a bag, 100%. You have a gorgeous box, you have a dust bag and everything. And so I created this product that had everything in it that you need to create videos that look good. So, because I was telling my clients, go get this microphone here, go get this camera here, go get this lighting here. And so I just thought, well, let's all have it in one thing. And at that point, nobody had done anything like that. And so I went to work and did all my research, created so many prototypes, did focus groups, and within 6 weeks, I was sending out the first version of the Video Glam Cam Kit.
Wow!
And it was a beautiful pink box with a gold embossed my logo on it, and you'd open it up and it had a bag that said not dare. That's my new thing now. Be iconic. And so, and then it had a light, selfie stick, tripod, microphones, a little blinged out mirror that goes on the back of your phone. What else did it have? Yeah, I mean, it was just like everything you need. Wow. And so, let's see, that was in... So
the funniest thing that I did add to your story is I used to work at Children's, and I'm riding up an elevator at Children's, the hospital, and a lady has that box.
I can't remember telling you this.
I was like, where'd you get this? And she said, oh, I know somebody, and I bought this. And I'm like, oh, I know the designer.
Well, listen, I've heard about it since I've met Carla, or since it came out. She was telling me about it. And
I love it.
You explained it so well.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure out what Carla was trying to tell me,
What are you saying, Brandy?
I know. Saying she did a better job than me.
Are you saying I might need a little communication coaching?
Maybe. Yeah. She's for hire.
I love it. But fast forward. Let's see, that was that was right at the end of December. So by the end of February, I was shipping them out. And then in June or so, no. Had to have been in August because it was only a few weeks until the Emmys. I was filming for a client. she was doing an interview, and the guy she was interviewing said, "Yeah, when we had our product backstage at the Emmys," and I went, "Wait, I gotta
do this."
Finish the interview so that I can then ask him, because just like this was like on a Thursday or Friday, just that Wednesday before I was on a call with my coach, we were talking about what direction would this video glam cam kit go. Would I continue doing one-off sales, or would I try to do some white labeling? Like, where is it going, or private labeling? And I said, you know what, someday I really want to go to one of those, like be at the Oscars or something. She goes, that's a great idea. Put it on your vision board. Don't want to get distracted. When it comes, it'll come. And so I'm thinking, okay, 2 or 3 years from now. Well, then just a few days later, I'm listening to this interview, and he says this. So when it finished, I said, how did you go get on? How did you go there? And he said, I have the number of the lady who created the original gift bags for these types of events. Okay, can I have it? And so he gave it to me, gave me the website, and Self-Sabotage. I sat on it for a number of days before I reached out to her. And we finally spoke, and she said, well, we've got these different events coming up. It was like, not the MTV, maybe like People's Choice Awards and like the Nickelodeon, all of those different things. And we have the Emmys coming up in 2.5 weeks. I was like, oh, well, in my brain, I thought, oh, that's a few years from now. And then I thought, well, why not? Let's try.
Wow.
Let's try. So within 2.5 weeks, I was backstage at the Emmys.
In a gorgeous dress, by the way.
Thank you.
It was gorgeous.
Green.
Wow.
Green.
Gorgeous,
So that's where I got to experience big celebrities right in front and face to face, and it was where I really learned, like, we're all humans.
We're all the same.
We're all humans. So that was the learning experience too. Like,
wow.
They walked in, you're like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to, or I'd like to introduce Michael to you. Oh, thank you. Hello, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm so fangirling. I love it.
You are. She is. She's such a fangirl.
I am People Magazine's best customer.
Oh, are you? Oh my goodness.
I just read them in line.
She keeps me in the know.
Okay.
I read them while I'm standing in the grocery line.
There you go. Then you put it back. No.
No, of course I would never do that. Never, ever would I do that. Elizabeth, you are living what you preach, and it's just, you're such an inspiration, and you have taken us through so many challenges that people have, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's eating disorder. And we just want to really focus on how much you've overcome and how much you have really transformationed into who you are. And so thank you so much for being a guest on our show. I know our audience is going to get so much out of this. Please go and listen to her TED Talks. Please look her up on the internet. You want to give them all the contacts for those? Do you have?
Sure, yes. So my website is my name, elizabethdemoraes.com. And then the TEDx talk is, just look up the same name. I'm assuming you'll have my name on these notes. 100%. So just go to Elizabeth de Moraes TEDx, and you'll see me, and it's called, again, Transform Your Self-Sabotage into Your Superpower. And I talk about just that the awareness of when that behavior is going to come up or is coming up. How can you flip it into a more positive behavior? So those would be the two main things. And of course, you can find me on Instagram. I love being there too. I am Elizabeth de Moraes.
She's great to follow. She does amazing videos. Y'all follow her, and we will have her back after some of these other projects get rolling.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with any mental health issues, we want you to reach out to a friend, a trusted family member, somebody you trust. We want you to get connected with a professional. If you are having self-harm thoughts or suicidal thoughts, we want you to get immediate help. Dial 911, go to the nearest ER, or you can call the National Suicide Hotline at 988. We at Mental Perk want you to know you're worthy. We're in this together.